A while back, I came across a comment on a forum in Reddit, and this person said, "I'm not a functional medicine provider. I'm just someone who suffered for years and wasted countless dollars only to find a $10 solution." And they went on to describe that $10 solution. I took a screenshot of it when I came across it, and then I put it in my episode ideas folder and kind of forgot about it until now. So let's talk about it. What is this $10 solution, and will it work for you? Welcome back to another episode of Health with Hashimoto's. This is the podcast where you find simple and sustainable solutions for your health. I am here to empower you to take charge of your health. If you have Hashimoto's, if you have hypothyroid, there's a reason that you have it. There's something causing it. And that's one of the biggest things we do in this podcast is we work together to figure out why you are having problems and then what you can do about it. Obviously, since it's a podcast, I cannot hear you. I'm just talking to you, but I can't hear you. And so that is where our school community comes into play, skool.com. There are so many different communities on the school platform, and the Health with Hashimoto's is one of those communities. So come on over and join us. When you join us, you should get an email from me that invites you to a free 15-minute call so that we can connect. And that way I can hear you and you can tell me what's going on. We can have a quick chat. It is not a full holistic Hashimoto's health session. It is not a coaching call. This is a, hey, let's get to know each other and you can tell me what's going on, what you're struggling with, and I can point you in the right direction. I would love to invite you to that. So come on over to school if you haven't already, and then sign up for that call. The link will be in your email. Okay, so this comment has to do with your microbiome. So let's go back and talk about your microbiome. Your gut can also be called your microbiome. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that I have mentioned every autoimmune condition has three things. It has a gut component, a genetic component, and one or more triggers. So of course, today we're talking about that gut component of the autoimmune condition. Specifically in this podcast, we're talking about Hashimoto's. So we need to address the health of your gut. Your gut can also be called your microbiome. It's basically just the tube. It starts in your mouth and your nose, and it ends at your rectum. The thing is, 80%, and people differ, 70 to 80% of your immune system is in and around your microbiome or your gut. Many chronic diseases and autoimmune diseases begin in the gut or at least have a gut component. Even genetic diseases, they are impacted by your gut health. Your microbiome impacts everything. It impacts your daily levels of pain, your energy, so much stuff. It's even called your second brain because it produces so many hormones. And did you know that your gut sends 400 times more messages to your brain than your brain sends to the rest of your body? I'm going to repeat that because it blows my mind every time I think about that. Because you think of your brain being the control center for your entire body. You think of your brain sending messages everywhere, right? At least I do. Your gut sends 400 times more messages to your brain than your brain sends to the rest of your body. So we really need to take care of our gut. And in a perfect world, all of the beneficial microbes in our body would be perfect. They would be perfectly imbalanced. We would know how to feed them. We would know how to keep them healthy, and we would be reaping the amazing health benefits that they help us achieve. However, that's not the world that we live in. So when all of those things are out of whack, then we can get symptoms like gas, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, inflammation. Poor gut health plays a role in every health condition. It's crazy. Every health condition is impacted by your gut health. And then in turn, your gut health is impacted by many other things, like your stress levels and your sleeping habits, your digestive habits, like chewing your food well. All of those things, and exercise, all of those can impact your gut health. Everything really is related to everything. So what can you do about your gut health? And actually, I'm going to narrow that down because gut health is something that we can talk about for hours and hours, and this podcast is not hours and hours long. So let's refine it down to just talking about the microbiome, specifically the pre and the probiotics. Now, I'm going to tell you about a garden analogy that keeps my brain straight on what's a prebiotic and what's a probiotic and what's a postbiotic. Now, if you look at your garden, you've got the soil And then you've got the seeds and you've got the fertilizer. When you're thinking about a garden and keeping it healthy and having amazing, abundant harvests, you want good soil, good seeds, and good quality fertilizer, whether that's put on the soil before, you plant your seeds, or whether it's something that you spray on. Like, you want all of those three things to be peak so that you have the best outcome. It's the same thing with your microbiome. You want good garden soil. That's the prebiotics. You want good seeds. That's the probiotics. And you want good fertilizer. That's the postbiotics. And fertilizer you don't need a lot of, and so I'm not even going to talk about postbiotics, because if you are eating well enough and getting prebiotics and probiotics in your diet, you are also usually getting postbiotics. So I don't worry about them. I focus on the pre and the probiotics. So let's talk about the probiotics first, because sometimes you don't need soil. For Christmas this year, my husband got me a hydroponic garden, meaning it's just water. And the seeds grow in the water and, they grow a small amount. I have several different kinds of lettuce in there right now. I can't remember, but you can grow several different things, just short plants, not, huge things. They grow in water. So technically, you can have harvest with just the seeds. You don't need the soil. So let's talk about probiotics first. According to a Harvard study, there are over 500 different species of bacteria that live inside the human intestine. That's a lot. It's a lot of different species. And we can talk about the scientific stuff, and I will mention it briefly, but we're not going to go into all 500. And also, I want to tell you that if you've been on antibiotics or if you've been on some diets, they can wipe out your microbiome. They can wipe out your beneficial probiotics. For example, if you've been on the carnivore diet, which is great for reducing inflammation, it's got no sugar in it. It works really well for reducing inflammation. But a side effect is that it can wipe out your microbiome because there's nothing for your probiotics to live on. There's nothing for them to eat. There's no prebiotics, and you can't have probiotics thriving without having prebiotics for them to eat. But I digress. We're going to go over some of the common probiotics, and I'm going to link to an article that I found really helpful. It's from thehealthreporter.com, and they go over, first of all, how to read probiotic names, because all of the probiotics, when you look on a supplement, the probiotic supplements, you're going to notice really quickly that every probiotic listed has 3 different parts. A lot of times they're going to start with a B or an L, and then there's going to be a long name. So the different parts will tell you the genus, the species, and the strain. And yes, this is going back to elementary and high school biology. At least I make my kids study this in elementary school. I don't know if they still do that, but we're studying the genus, we're talking about the genus, the species, and the strain. So the genus is usually a lactobacillus or a bifidobacteria. So if you see in your probiotic supplements, of course, it's not going to say this on foods, but if you take a probiotic supplement, a lot of them are going to start with an L or a B. So that's the genus. Some will have an S because we also have Saccharomyces. That's a different genus of the probiotics. And so after the initial letter, then you're going to have another name, and that's going to be the species. So a really common probiotic is L. acidophilus. The acidophilus is the species. Another one might be L. casei. I don't really know how to say that one. I just always read it. Do you do that too? When I'm reading, sometimes I just see the word and that goes into my brain, but I don't figure out how to pronounce it. So a couple of these are the same. This next one, L-reuteri. How would you say that? Reuteri? I don't know. So that's another lactobacillus is the genus, and then the species is this reuteri. So you're going to have the genus, and then you're going to have the species. And then after that, sometimes you will have some letters or numbers, and those are the strains. So for example, you have the lacto or the L acidophilus, and then you might have a strain and it's LA-1 or DDS1. Those are the strains. And that's why when you're reading about probiotics, it can get a little confusing because there's so much variety. But the thing is, remember I said you have 500 different types in your gut, or at least hopefully you have around 500 different types. We want a lot of strains. And I don't know if you have listened to the episodes about GLP-1. I had one episode where we talked specifically about things that you can do to increase your own GLP-1 production. Because yes, things like Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, all of those semaglutide and derivatives, the GLP-1 agonists, the mimics, they're popular and they work to help balance hormones and help you lose weight, but they have so many side effects. And in my opinion, the pros do not outweigh the risks. The risks are far greater. There are things you can do. I have that episode on things you can do naturally. A couple episodes after that, I talk about the mind-body GLP-1 system, which is what I'm a super big fan of. I love how it helps your body do what your body is supposed to do. It balances things out. It helps your gut. I love it's 2 parts. So the capsules, it's called the MB Core. And then there's some powder, and that's the MB Enhance. That MB Enhance helps with gut health, and I absolutely love it. I did a live stream in one of the Facebook groups that I help moderate, and I talked about all the different ways that I use that MB Enhance. It is fantastic. Now, people who have not had a lot of fiber in their diet, there is an adjustment period as their gut is, getting used to a lot more fiber and prebiotics and probiotics. But I love it. I think it tastes good. It's kind of a vanilla flavor, and I just love how my gut feels with it. Anyway, I digress. In those 2 episodes, I talk about ways that you can increase your GLP-1, and we talk about one probiotic, and that is Akkermansia. And you don't have to take Akkermansia as a supplement or even in food to have more Akkermansia. In that episode, I talk about you can work on the prebiotics. You can work on the food that your probiotics eat. And in doing that, you will increase how many probiotics you have. So you don't have to actually take an Akkermansia supplement in order to have more Akkermansia probiotic in your gut. Isn't that cool? And it goes for a lot of other probiotics too. Your probiotics want to eat food. So now let's talk about prebiotics and where you can get them, because the prebiotics are the food that your probiotics eat. And the prebiotics are so important. My husband and I are completely different when it comes to food. We like the same types of food, but I am so routine. I could eat the same thing every day, like a different thing for breakfast, lunch, and supper, but then I could repeat that day every day for like a year, and I would probably not get bored. I am fine with routine. My husband, he wants a new food every single day. He wants a lot of variety. He doesn't want to eat the same thing. He wants choices. He wants things to be different. He wants things to be colorful and beautiful. I appreciate that so much about him because, my goodness, what a boring life my kids would have if I was in charge. We would have the same thing every single week. I'm so glad my husband is around. And your probiotics in your gut, they're like my husband. Your probiotics want variety. They want to have different things available all the time. Your probiotics do not want routine and the same things over and over like I am happy eating. Your probiotics want a variety. So your probiotics, you want to feed them like a lot of different fruits and grains and legumes and vegetables, herbs even, spices. There are so many different things that help your probiotics eat. Even the beneficial fats in like butter and olive oil, chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, avocado oil, coconut oil, even all of those things are going to help build a good environment for the probiotics. Now, the probiotics aren't going to eat the fats, but those are going to help the gut health in general and build a healthy home for the bacteria. So your gut probiotics, they want things to eat like fiber. You know what fiber is. They also really like polyphenols. Now, polyphenols, it's a fancy name, and there's a lot of different varieties. Basically, it's chemistry, and I'm not going to talk about it, but I'll tell you one type of polyphenol is a flavonoid. Now, flavonoids, you're probably familiar with some of them because they are the colorful plant compounds found in some foods. So if you've heard of superfoods, a lot of the superfoods are super because of the flavonoids, which are polyphenols. So maybe you have heard of quercetin. Back in 2020, there was huge respiratory virus going around the entire world, and I was hearing a lot about quercetin and how it can help people fight off respiratory viruses. Or maybe you have heard that dark chocolate is good for you. And why is it? It's because of the polyphenols in them. Blueberries, cranberries, tea, red grapes, and then, of course, red wine. All of these contain different flavonoids or polyphenols that your gut really wants because the probiotics need healthy food, and the probiotics really love those specific types of prebiotics. So in addition to the foods that I just listed, other foods are really high in prebiotics as well. Broccoli, kale, cabbage, apples, tomatoes, I said berries, Jerusalem artichokes, chicory. Now, I mentioned chicory quite a bit when we were doing the GLP-1 episode. Also bananas, avocados, almonds, onions, garlic, all of those contain good prebiotics. And also incorporating fiber or resistant starch foods, that's another prebiotic. So those would be wheat. Of course, if you're gluten-free, you don't want to do that one. Potatoes and corn and other grains, those can feed the bacteria in the colon, and those bacteria can produce short-chain fatty acids, which are resistant starches. And I think we talked about resistant starches in the GLP-1 episodes. And those episodes, by the way, are episodes 114 to 117, I believe, all about GLP-1, what it is, how to increase it, and then, like I said, talking about the system, the mind-body GLP-1 system that helps your body create more GLP-1, which is super beneficial, especially if an out-of-whack blood sugar is one of your root causes. And it is a very common root cause for Hashimoto's. Having too many highs, too many lows, even not a diabetic, having your blood sugar go on a roller coaster can be a root cause for Hashimoto's. So I'm a huge fan of the mind-body GLP-1 system for people who want to get things back in balance and help their body do what their body is supposed to do. So moving on to what foods can help you with probiotics. Now, of course, probiotics, we talked about that they're the living bacteria. You can get them from supplements. I take Seed, SEED, and that is my favorite because it's got the prebiotic and the probiotic together in one capsule. It's actually like a dual capsule, super cool. But I also get it from my diet. And here is where we come to that Reddit comment that started this entire episode. This person, Buzzle Muzzle is her or his handle. The little icon is a girl, so I'm just going to say her. She says, "Let me give you a chance to possibly save a bunch of money. Go get yourself some milk kefir grains and watch some YouTube videos on how to make milk kefir. Then branch out to as many other fermented veggies and drinks as you can. Healing my gut microbiome with fermented foods completely reversed all my crippling digestive issues. Note, I am not a functional medicine provider. I'm just someone who suffered for years and wasted countless dollars only to find a $10 solution." So here's the thing. Making your own fermented foods is like pennies. Most fermented foods, it's a little salt and a little thyme. That's it. Not thyme the spice, but thyme as in, a week or two. To make kombucha, you start out with old kombucha and a SCOBY, and you add some fresh tea and some fresh sugar, and then it's thyme. Kefir, you can make milk kefir or water kefir, and both of them, you start out with some grains, which are not grains at all. It's just tiny little SCOBYs that have the name grains. And you add some milk or some water and a little sugar and thyme. To make lacto-fermented carrots or onions, you add the carrots or the onions or the garlic or whatever to the jar. And you add some salt water as a brine and some thyme. That's it. They're so cheap. And each one of these things makes different strains of probiotics. And so how many can you incorporate in a day or in a week? I mean, there's so many different kinds. You can make pickles, not the regular pickles. These have to be lacto-fermented. You can make sauerkraut. There's so many different varieties. I encourage you to come over to our school community. I'm going to have a thread all about fermented veggies and fermented foods so you can figure out how to make things that are probiotic rich and also have prebiotics and impact your gut. I'll see you over there. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Please discuss any concerns and plans with your trusted healthcare professional. If you found this episode helpful, will you please share it with a friend? I'll see you next week on the Health with Hashimoto's podcast.